Okay, so far we've covered assigning of materials to objects, we've covered material editor, we've covered how to place our textures on our objects, that's texture mapping, both on NURBS and polygons. Now I want to go into an interesting aspect of material editing, and that is using the Hypershade window, which is actually the best way to see the results of your materials before you apply them on the object, on the actual objects. So the Hypershade window is something that is going to be very handy when you're modeling. So first of all, let's just create some objects here. Let's create a cube, make it a bit bigger. So I'm going to come under edit here, then duplicate special. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate special here, and I want to make copies, and I want to translate them randomly. So maybe go to just on the X and on the Z, so 2 here, 4 here. Might rotate them on the Y, probably maybe 5. Then I could make like 12 copies, then apply. Okay, so I just reset and go back. Okay, so I just made some random copies here. I just want to move them and place them in different positions. So we just shift this, move this, move this, move this here, this here, this here. So we'll drop this down, pick up the rest here, drop them down, and bring them closer to the grid, down. Okay, so I'll just place them in various places here. Okay, so we just have some random boxes hanging around. Okay, so select all of this, Ctrl D, move them around, rotate them. Okay, W, move them kind of maybe somewhere like this, just so we have some random selection of boxes or cubes around the environment. So we could just making a complex scene. So we have multiple cubes here. Okay, so I'm going to open up the Hypershade window, and from there we're going to determine how we're going to add our materials to them. Okay, so generally these are just cubes. There's nothing special about them. Select all of them, come here and make sure that your translate on Y is 0. Okay, so that they're all flat on the surface. Yeah. The translation of Y should be 1 for you. Okay. So actually all of them should be translated 1. Y, good. Okay. Back to your modeling toolkit. Okay, so the Hypershade window can be found here, this little green circle here, or you could find it under your Windows rendering editors. Then you see Hypershade, so you see the same shape there. So anywhere you click on it from could be could still get you to where you would need to go to. So let's just click it on here. So the Hypershade window opens up a window on its own, and this window is very powerful. As you can see, you may not have this on your screen, so I'll just hit this. So just click here. So the Hypershade window is very, very powerful, and you'll use it to create materials, and you can also use it to apply or assign your materials to your objects. So because of I'm just using a single screen here, I'm going to increase the Hypershade window so we have a better look of it, and I'm going to add this viewport into the Hypershade window so that we don't have to be going back and forth. So I'll just increase this here. Okay, so we have a full screen. Then I'll come on the window. Then what I'm looking for is viewport. So I want to add the viewport, my perspective viewport, and I want to add it here, right here, where this guy jumps out. So I want to have it here. So I don't need to be going back and forth with the settings. I'll just turn this shading from wireframe to smooth shade also. We could see everything. So this works just like how your window works. It's actually your viewport. You could change any viewport you want to see. You could change it to the top view, the side view, whatever view you want. So it's not. You can also Alt B and change the status just the same way your viewport works. Okay. So this is our Hypershade window. Right here we have thumbnails for any surface material you add to your scene. We have materials, we have for textures, utilities, rendering, we have for lights, cameras, shading groups, you name it. We have all those thumbnails added here. So anything you add to your scene, the Hypershade will show you everything about it. You have a normal file menu here where you could import materials, you could edit materials, duplicate them, the shading network, or convert some files. So you could come here and change the view. How do you want to view your thumbnails, as icons or as lists? And here you could create materials. Yeah, these are materials. You could come here and create materials. You could create volumetric materials, 2D textures, and a whole lot of them here. Okay, then these tabs makes in case you want to create a new tab here. Then graph, this is with the graph point here. So any graph create will be here. Then this window is all this interface you're seeing here. So we have the browser, we have the property editor, the material viewer, create bins. So the browser, then the create and the bins, there's the create and bins here, right here. Then this is where we have the property editors, these points here, just like the attribute editor. Then we have the material viewer, which will be here. Okay, so everything is placed in its right point. So now, like here, we have the view port. If you want, you could add an outliner, so you could be able to select an individual object. So if I add an outliner right here, I could bring the outline and put it just right beside it. So in case I want to select a particular cube, I will be able to get it easily. So I could just have an outline. So anything that you want to see, if you want to see UV editors and stuff, you could also add them in here. So the Hypershade window can work as an interface of its own, or the workspace on its own. All right. So right now nothing is showing. That's because nothing is selected. So I want to first of all show you how to use this point here. So like I said, the browser just shows us our materials, the things we add. So if I add the outliner now, we have the viewport, we have the material viewer, we have the create section, we have a graph section. This is where the graph section, where we'll be creating our materials in form of nodes, and you'll be seeing those nodes. This is the property editor and works like the attribute editor. Whatever material you create, you select and change from here. Okay, so let's take, for instance, I select this cube here, or let's say I select polycube 1. So we see this shape, and if you're not seeing this, what I'm seeing on my screen, don't be alarmed. There's nothing wrong with your system. Right now I'm using the Arnold. I'm not using the hardware. If I use the hardware, this is how it's going to show. And here I have the different shader balls I can use a shader ball, a cloth, teapot, ocean. So you might have this on your screen, the shader ball. I don't know which one you would have, but it's just preference. You could use any of them. You could use a cloth, and to show you a cloth, how the material will look like on cloth. You could use a teapot. You could use it wherever you want. Okay, so let me just take the shader ball. Then interior, one color, interior two. These ones work basically when you are in Arnold here. So when you're in Arnold, you see the material and you see the background. So based on the background, this is interior one, neutral. If I do interior color, you see the color here. If I go to exterior, then you see the outside, exterior, like a different place. So they're different. You can add new backgrounds if you want to. So I'm just going to go with interior one. Okay, and this is the property editor. So that material has an initial shading group of Lambert 1. Remember, you don't use Lambert 1. You don't change Lambert 1. That's the default color for any material or any object you comment or you add. So I want to add a material and assign it to this. So now I will come in here, and remember, we have our 2D textures, 3D environmental textures, and other textures. This is basically for creating of textures. This is surfaces, and this is the our surfaces where we have our Lambert, our Blaine, and other surfaces that we had there. So click on Maya. Maya will show you what you have on your shelf when we come into the rendering, what we have here. Okay, so I could assign a Blaine to that cube. Okay, and now you see this network. So this is a graph network showing the input. So we added a surface shader, and the out color is a Blaine, and this is the out color, and you could see the look here. Now this is the way a Blaine will look like. Okay, a Blaine material by default. So even if you come here and you change its color to something like this shade of blue here, you still see it look that way. Its output is into, or its input is into the color here, out color here. So if you want to create a texture now on the color, then you'll be sending it out from here into that color. So let's take, for example, I want to put a texture here, and I click texture here. You see I can come in here and change maybe, let's say, to a cloth. Then you see it's gone out from the color in, and you see the cloth materials added. Then we see from the UV cord that we're going to the place 2D texture. Okay, and you can see the cloth over there. So this is the cloth texture. If I come in here, I go back to the Blaine, and I have what I need here. So this is how the Hypershade works. It's very graphical. It shows you how the materials are interrelating with each other and how they flow. And the flow is basically from right to left, not left to right. Then right now, if I select that polycube 1, you will notice something. The polycube 1 does not have that material. So this material created is not yet applied on the polycube, even if I created it from the Hypershade. So one of the benefits of the Hypershade is I don't necessarily need to apply the material yet until I'm done with it. Then I can now apply it to this material. So now that my cube is selected, I can apply this material to the cube, either by using my middle mouse and dragging the material here and dumping it on the cube, or by right clicking, and I will be able to assign. So if I right click, I would see assign material to selection. That's based on the object that is selected. Okay, so I can now leave, and now my cube will have that assignment. You can see it now has the bling. If I want to assign it to this cube as well, what cube is that? That's cube 24. Okay, I could just middle mouse button from here and drag and dump it there. Okay, and now cube 24 has that. So if I come into my bling and do something like make it transparent, for instance, then all my objects have. Right now, remember, this guy is not showing anything because the hardware texture is turned off. So I turn it back on, and you can see the texture there. So I could increase transparency, probably incandescence, just so you see the difference. Okay. So the Hypershade is very important and very useful. It shows you a graph network of your inputs and outputs. You can actually create your materials and edit them the way you want, and then you can now apply them on your object. The materials that you create will show up here on the browser, on the material browser. So we've added materials. I added a texture, a cloth texture, and if you come under textures now, you will see cloth. So if I come and clear this graph, to clear this graph, I'm going to use this option here. This point shows me point to clear graph. Okay, so this one will add selected nodes. It made me add a selected node from somewhere to the graph, and this one will make me remove a node from the graph. Okay, sometimes you don't want to see too many graphs. So this one just enables you to show the input connections. So I'm not seeing the shader, that's one that was on the right here. Okay, and this one shows you all the connections from this point here, both the input and output connections, and this one will show me only the output connections. Okay, so that's what these guys mean. All right. So let's just clear this graph and create a new material. Okay, so for this material, I'm going to use a standard surface. I'm going to click at standard surface here. Okay, so that's a standard surface there. Then I'm going to make it kind of darker, give it a color of, let's say, blue is my best color, but I've used a lot of blue, so let me use red this time and make it a little bit faint, so it's not too red. Okay, I'll call this guy red brick. Okay, so in standard surfaces we have presets here. We could come under presets, then we could check to any of this that we want. You want to make frosted glass, you want to make ceramic, clay, milk, plastic. So let's try frosted glass. So when you come here, you just come to replace, and it replaces it with frosted glass. Okay, so I think I'll just rename it because now it's no longer glass. So I'll just call it frosted. Okay, so that's the name of that material now. Okay, I could decide to, since I'm making the glass, I can now create transmission here. I could change the transmission color to something like green, so that it's eliminating green from it. You know, transmission is the color that comes out of the object when light hits it. Remember, I talked about that. Okay, then specular color, yes, white. I want to increase the specularity a little bit, the roughness of it, or not. Let's take it down. Okay, so I got frosted. Let's create one more shading material for a standard surface. This time I'm going to use clay. Replace with clay. And I'll call this one clay. Clayed. Right. Okay, you could either make it dark clay or bright clay, but this clay is fine. I think I should just make one more material this time. Let's make a bling. Okay, and for this bling, now I'm going to leave it this color. I'm going to make it. Let's make it purple. Just make it purple. But this time, let's add a bump map. Okay, let's make it look bumpy. Select the bling. I want to add a bump map, but this time I want to add a noise. So add a noise. So the noise we want to add, we need to select the noise and add what kind of noise do we need. Let's see, all the noise, then the billows. Increase the threshold of noise a little bit, and so this I'm going to call you bumpy, bump, whatever. Okay. So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to select certain cubes here and assign these materials to them. So I'm going to select this and this, select this and this. Then I'm going to assign frosted to this. 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 Then I'm going to assign clay to this. I'm going to assign clay to this. I'm going to assign clay to this. I think I mistakenly assigned frosted here. I'm going to assign a bump here. I'm going to assign a bump here. I'm going to assign this bling here. Just going to assign frosted to this one. Okay, so now I have this. You can actually now render and see how it looks like. You can go back into your render view and click on render and see how it looks like. Or you can come here, render, and check anode, though we don't have anode lights yet, so okay. But on the textures here, you can see we have a cloth and noise here. We have lights, there are no lights in our scene, so we could actually add lights. So we come here on the lights. I want to add a basic light and maybe an ambient light, or I can come and add an Arnold light here. So let's just use an Arnold sky dome light. Okay, so that's going to add a sky dome light here for us. Let's turn this to hardware. Get an Arnold lights, then turn on my render view. Okay, then I have, this is an Arnold render, and we could see the materials I've created because I'm using the Arnold sky dome lights. If it's too bright, you can actually come here and delete the light. Then probably add maybe physical sky. Okay, so re-render this. Then we see shades of what we've created. Okay, if you're using Maya software, you have different look in it. So basically, that's it with the Hypershade. We will use it in other exercises to assign materials to objects and create some crazy stuff. But I hope you take advantage of the use of the Hypershade. So it's a very powerful editor for your materials, and you'll find me using it almost all the time. From now that you've learned about it, most of the time we're creating materials, I'll be going in there to create our materials, so don't get lost. I'll walk you through the other settings in the Hypershade window in successive videos.